Just how good are the inexpensive imported replacement carburetors for outdoor power equipment? In this video, we'll install one and try to bring back to life an older chainsaw that's been out of service for years. At the same time, we'll take an in-depth look at some common challenges with adapting these carburetors when they don't quite fit. All this and more, right now, here on Shop Tales and Lore. For many years, when it was time to service a small engine fuel system, I would order a rebuild kit, painstakingly disassemble and clean the carburetor, which usually meant running the pieces through an ultrasonic cleaner, then carefully put everything back together using new gaskets, diaphragm, and other parts, keeping my fingers crossed that I was able to get all of the kit parts in the right orientation and sufficiently clean out all those tiny passages. When the inexpensive imported replacement carburetors hit the market a number of years ago, at first they were problematic because the quality wasn't always consistent. In fact, most of the small engine repair pros that I knew wanted nothing to do with them. Later, I started seeing positive reviews on these carbs, so I decided to give them a try. I've had nothing but good results with them, and they are typically priced only slightly higher than a corresponding rebuild kit. And when you consider the fact that most of these come as a combination fuel system renewal and tune-up package, complete with fuel lines, tank grommets, filters, and spark plug, the savings in time and frustration make these kits well worth the slight additional cost. The patient for this demonstration is this vintage US-made Poland Model 2150, which I bought new around 1998 or 99. It's a medium-duty, homeowner-grade chainsaw rated at a modest displacement of 2.1 cubic inches, or about 34 cc's. But the overall quality is exceptionally good, and its relative lightweight and 16-inch bar make for a maneuverable, well-balanced package with plenty of power for pruning or bucking firewood up to 12 inches in diameter. The problem is that years ago, before we had ethanol-free fuel available locally, I let it sit for a while with ethanol-based fuel in the tank, which pretty much destroyed the fuel lines and clogged the carb's passages. Since I had another saw, this one just sat in its case, pretty much forgotten in a garden shed for about 15 years. Since it's perfectly fine otherwise and has very little time on the engine, it's a great candidate for one of the inexpensive replacement carburetors. Unpacking everything, we get an idea right away of the scope of these carb and accessory kits. In addition to the fuel lines, this one includes an air filter, fuel filter, spark plug, carb gasket, primer bulb and valve assembly, and the carb itself. Comparing the new unit, shown here on the right, to the original on the left, we see a basic similarity, but a couple of key differences pop up right away. This is because these carbs are made to fit a variety of different applications. In this case, both the intake and return fuel fittings are on the same side of the original carburetor body. But on the replacement unit, the intake is on one side and the return is on the opposite side of the body. This may cause a conflict with our throttle linkage. Also, the choke link on the old carb is completely independent, but on the new unit it operates a separate link that opens the throttle when the choke is applied. This could cause a clearance issue between this linkage and the air filter housing. Let's get a closer look by starting some reassembly. For reference, here's a good look at how the choke operates on the original stock carburetor. With this design, pulling out the choke also moves the red ignition switch into the on position, which is kind of a neat feature. With the air filter housing in place, notice how closely the carb choke lever and the housing are situated. This recess molded into the housing provides needed clearance for the choke lever to freely move back and forth. Now let's look at the same location with the new carburetor in place. The added linkage definitely comes into contact with the filter housing. In fact, this conflict creates a gap between the carburetor and the filter housing of almost 1/8 of an inch. If we tightened down the housing, assuming we could tighten it down without breaking it, the choke could not operate. Adding a spacer of thick gasket material turned out to be a quick and easy solution. Using the carburetor gasket as a pattern, I carefully traced, cut, and drilled a duplicate from cork material that's actually a little thicker than 1/8 of an inch. Keep in mind that the filter housing doesn't need a perfectly airtight seal with the carb. It just needs to be good enough to keep larger dirt and debris from being sucked in by the engine's vacuum. For more handy tips like that one, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified whenever we release a new video. And if we've helped you today, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. It helps these videos reach more folks, and your comments help others as well. Now back to the video. Okay, now let's take a look at the throttle linkage. Like we suspected earlier, this nipple, or rather the return fuel line that attaches to it, is competing for the same space with the wire link that connects the throttle trigger to the carburetor. This friction prevents the throttle link from moving freely back and forth. Since bending the original stock link would have made it too short, I ended up making a new one from a piece of wire coat hanger. Notice how the new link is shaped to dip down below the fuel lines, which eliminates the friction and lets the throttle lever freely operate back and forth. By the way, we recently did a separate video of tips and tricks for replacing those small fuel lines and on how to get them through those tiny tank openings and other passages with minimal frustration. We'll put links on the screen and in the video description. After some final checks to be sure the choke plate is clearing the new gasket and the choke and throttle linkage are no longer binding, I reinstalled the air filter housing and checked the throttle function one last time. Finally, I reinstalled the flywheel cover containing the recoil starter, made sure the fuel lines were properly connected and pulling fuel through the carburetor, and fired it up. For this initial test run, I left off the air cleaner element and top cover. After a small adjustment to the high-speed mixture needle, the forgotten little saw runs like a champ. Hey, thanks for watching. Here are a couple more titles you may find helpful. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and visit our homepage for a wide variety of DIY and home workshop topics.